Okay, we're a little bit late. We're waiting on one of our other board members, but hopefully she's en route. First of all, thank the two of you for coming. I hate to tell you that we're going to be leaving in about a minute, but that's what we do. Appreciate you coming. Well, we have plenty of chairs. That's one thing we have plenty of. We're holding today's meeting at Denver Road Educational Complex. There is no public comment. Once we finish with the executive session at approximately 6 p.m., we will be returning to public session. Under Section 3-305B of the General Provisions Article of the Maryland Annotated Code, there are two reasons the board will go into closed session this evening: to conduct collective bargaining negotiations or consider matters that relate to the negotiations; to discuss appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction; any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. Specifically, the topics for tonight will be 3-305B9, which include health care presentation, including employee benefits, salary parameters, GASA and GCEA contract language, and update on negotiation process. 3-305B1, topics including professional leave requests and superintendent contract. The reason these topics be discussed in closed session instead of open session is as follows. Negotiations topics pursuant to 3-305B9 disclosed above will be considered in closed session rather than open session because of the confidential nature of the collective bargaining process. Personnel topic pursuant to 3-305B1 disclosed above will be considered in closed session rather than open session because they include a discussion of specific employees, which is a confidential employment matter. Hearing all of that, are there any objections by board members to going into executive session? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
So moved by Jason.
Second.
Seconded by Josh. All those in favor of going into executive session, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And we are in executive session. Good evening. I'd like to welcome each of you to the regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting on February 13th, 2024, and certainly thank each of you for coming out on a snowy evening, be a part of this evening's meeting. First order of business, I ask each of you to stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by our student member. I'm sorry, in our moment of silence, I would also remember we lost two icons in the educational system that have worked in this system for many, many years. Dr. Scavage, our past superintendent for many years, passed away several weeks ago, and also the principal at Southern Middle from the beginning. As it opened the very first year, Jack Rickman, passed away 2 weeks ago. So certainly would ask that you would remember both of those very iconic educators in Garrett County. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First order of business is to approve the agenda, so I'll take a motion as such.
So moved.
So moved by Jason.
Second.
Second by Josh. Discussion. Those in favor of the agenda as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Agenda is adopted. Motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
So moved by Josh. Second. Second by Rodney. All those in favor of the consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Consent agenda is adopted. The closed session summaries and announcements can be viewed on our website. Certainly we encourage each of you to look at those in terms of things that have happened in the past month. We do have recognitions. We have three of them that we would like to announce today. The first one is our Christmas card artwork this year was by Michelle Bowman, and that presentation will be made by Mr. Van Sickle.
Thank you. So each year, the Garrett County Board of Education, Garrett County Public Education School System hold a holiday card contest for GCPS students to submit holiday-themed artwork. At the beginning of the school year, the superintendent's office contacted middle school teachers and students to participate in the 2020-2023 holiday card. Several submissions were received from Northern and Southern Middle School. The Board of Education members and GCPS staff members from the central office, North and Central, voted on this year's artwork. This year's artwork was chosen from the 2023 holiday card was a picture of a red ball ornament on a Christmas tree branch with the words Merry Christmas. This was actually completed by Shaylee Bowman as Mr. Woods presented. So if she will please come up, we have the original artwork that has been framed for you.
Our next presentation, 8 GCPS employees recently were awarded Garrett County Public Schools Foundation mini grants. The grants were up to $50 and were awarded to applicants needing financial assistance with special projects, materials, or classroom resources. The GCPS Foundation serves as a means of complementing educational resources, channeling funds into existing accounts, disseminating information on how best to contribute to the supplemental needs of Garrett County schools. The GCPS Foundation is a nonprofit 501c3 organization dedicated to enhancing experiences and programs for preschoolers through 12th graders in all of Garrett County Public Schools. I do think we might have a couple of people that came tonight for us to recognize. So if you are one of those teachers, we'd like you to do 2 things. Come up, just tell everyone who you are and what you use the money for. 1 sentence. Larry, only one is all you have to say. You're good right there. Yep.
Bottles, cans, and a ton of paper. And every week we take about a truckload of it to the recycling center. So the money that was granted to us, we're going to use to keep my room looking clean and not like a recycling center. Thank you.
That I got rewarded. I bought a EDU breakout program. So it's, if you've ever seen like the escape rooms, it's sort of that rationale. You get a bunch of different locks. It's a computer program. So for all of the different math, social studies, science, and language arts, they give you different like breakout scenarios. So for us, it's really about getting our kids to work collaboratively and be able to communicate and work together to solve different problems. And so far, they've loved it. So thank you.
My name is Robin Misrod. I'm a teacher at Crellin Elementary School. I teach 5th grade, and I'm using my award to purchase a class set of books called The Cod's Tale, which is a story about the Atlantic cod and how it's changed over time and how numbers have declined and human impact has changed the population of that fish. But it ties in really nice to my social studies curriculum, but it also ties in really nicely to our reading curriculum.
Would also be remiss in not telling you that the foundation has also given each school in Garrett County $1,000 to use for different items that each school may need, and that was a donation left actually by a family who made a very nice donation to the foundation for the needs of kids in Garrett County. So they've done a lot of really good things for our kids. We're very thankful for the foundation, all the work that each of them do. We have one more final presentation, and I think that is Mr. Gotfelty.
Hi. The board is pleased to recognize Northern Garrett High School and Southern Garrett High School for winning the College Board AP Computer Science Female Diversity Award. The College Board AP Computer Science Female Diversity Award recognizes schools that are closing the gender gap and engaging more female students in computer science coursework in AP Computer Science Principles and AP Computer Science. Specifically, College Board is honoring schools who reach 50% or higher female representation in either of the two AP Computer Science courses in one or both of the AP Computer Science courses, or whose percentage of the female examinees meet or exceed that of the school's female population. A total of 1,127 schools are being recognized for their work toward equal gender representation during the 2022-2023 school year. 834 schools received the award in AP Computer Science Principles. 225 schools received the award in AP Computer Science A, and Northern Garrett High School and Southern Garrett High School are among only 68 schools that received the award in both AP Computer Science courses. So congratulations. And I think we have Lindsay Kirshner from Southern High School and Lori Walker from Northern. So congratulations. Must have great people. Recognition of Northern Garrett High School and Southern Garrett High School outstanding accomplishments during the College Board AP Computer Science Diversity Award for outstanding young fact of AP Computer Science really important for the way tech world right now.
Our first order of continuing business, draft revenue presentation. Would like to introduce, for those of you that have not met her, we do have a new director of finance, We are very proud that Ms. Gloria Smith has joined our team here at the central office. She has a very difficult job that she's willing to accept, and that is to help navigate us through Maryland's blueprint for the future, which is on all of our minds every day. So Gloria, welcome to Garrett County Board of Education, and thank you for being a part of the team.
This evening, I would like to share with you an update on the draft preliminary state aid that we are receiving for fiscal year 25. Again, keep in mind, this is the draft aid. Oh, I just flipped it off. Most of our sources of revenue, the biggest piece or the base piece comes from the foundation program. We also receive funding for compensatory education, for pre-K, special education, English learners, of course, transportation, the career and college readiness program, transitional supplemental instruction, and of course, the blueprint transition. And then we also have restricted aid in the concentration of poverty or community schools. For fiscal year 25, the number is 24.9 million. That's the state's share. 24, it was 23.9, so we're about $1 million if you look at that. But if you look at the, sorry about the slides, I don't know why they're messed up. Do you know? Oh. Not sure. Sorry about that. See how much money we have. Okay. Oh, that's much better. So as you can see, the state share last year was 25.2 million, and we only had 272,000 in the concentration of poverty funding, and that was for Yacht Glades. You'll see in fiscal year 25, the actual major programs dropped to 23 million, but we picked up more money in the restricted aid fund. So fairly flat between the 2 years, about $47,000 increase from the state. And if you look at particular programs, like I said, you can see the foundation actually dropped $1 million, but we picked up $1 million down in the restricted aid for the schools. Everything else was relatively flat. There were ups and downs in each category, but they pretty much netted out. From the local share, it is 28.8 last year. This year it was projected to be 31.6 million, but you need to know that the state also does an adjustment to the local share, so they made a $1.8 million adjustment this year. So actually the minimum local funding is only $29.8 million for fiscal 25. And you can see last year we did not have any concentration of poverty on the local side. This year we do. If you look at total aid, again, you'll see the local piece is showing at the 31.6, but it's actually 29.8. And then there's some detail on the programs again. The real takeaway is, the bottom line is, we're looking at 54 million versus 55 for fiscal 25. So not a lot of increase in funding for the schools this year. And I think you wanted to speak to this one. If you net out the concentration of poverty between the 2 years, you can see basically we're flat.
Yes, and that's what I want to share with the board, that when you look at these numbers, and look at first and you're like, oh, that's a great increase. But if you look at the fiscal year 25 projected, the 55 million sounds great. It is an increase. But of that 55 million, 1.4 million has to go to a particular program as directed by the blueprint. Excuse me for having my back to some of you. So really, as we're developing next year's budget, and we're deep in that process right now, my message is that we really don't have any new money, that it's pretty much even funding. That being said, I also want to say that I have great confidence in working with the staff and Mrs. Smith, looking at some of our carryover funds, looking at some of our federal funds, reclassifying some different things, looking at unfilled positions that we will be bringing to the board as we go through this process, a balanced budget. But it's not going to be easy, and there will be some modifications that we'll need to make along the way. So,
Questions for either Superintendent or Ms. Smith, board members? Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Blueprint is creating a lot of things that we have to do that we haven't had to do before that costs a lot of money. So a flat budget is going to be really difficult to meet, a flat revenue. So thanks for your effort on this. Appreciate it.
I know that that is meant as words of encouragement for all of us. What I have said to the staff as we're looking at this is we're going to have to be very strategic as we look at our new money from the Community of Poverty School Program, looking at how we use those monies with staffing and how we continue to meet student needs.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for that. I should have mentioned all your staff that's working on this.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Anyone? Okay, thank you. Our next order of business will be the blueprint for Maryland's future update, college career readiness standard. Dr. Miller is going to make that presentation. You will hear us talk just about every month. If you attend a meeting or watch a meeting, we will be talking about the blueprint for Maryland's future for years and years and years to come. Mr. Edwards is going to take
You
over
got
for
the
Dr.
JV team
Dr.
here
Miller.
today.
What's the JV team?
I didn't
I don't know.
realize there's so
Ninth
many.
grade, maybe.
Yeah, didn't know so many people were interested in the CCR standard coming out tonight. But I'm sure you are. Before I get started in our presentation, I did want to make one comment in relation to the two ladies that just received the award for the AP Diversity from the College Board. I would be remiss if I didn't say both of those ladies are now multiple time recipients of that. They've done a great job year in and year out. And not only are they getting young women, my daughter being one of them a few years ago, into the computer science field, but both ladies are producing in the AP results at a rate much higher than the state and the national level. So they're one of 60 couple schools in the nation to be awarded for the diversity they're able to pull. They're also probably in that same echelon as far as the AP scores that they produce, and we're very fortunate to have both ladies. For the blueprint update today, we're going to talk about the CCR change in the determination for college and career readiness. For those of you in the audience that may be a little unfamiliar with that, students have until the end of their 10th grade year, which is basically defined as to the first day of their junior year, to become college and career ready. And that indicator is important to the school system, A, because it's an indication, obviously, that our students are achieving at a certain level, but B, it also, we get funding based on the amount of students that hit that mark. That mark has been a moving target since they set it, and just at the last state board meeting, which spearheaded tonight's update, they did change it once again. So the College and Career Readiness Standard created by MSDE and the AIB for students is in relation to English and math. And it is related to the scores that students receive on their English and math MCAP tests. And Chad, if you can flip I won't read every slide to you, and we did take these slides straight from the state's website, so it is a little misleading what some of the terminology is, and I'll try to clarify that as we go. So what you see here as the interim standard is the actual standard we're under right now. It's the standard our kids are held accountable to as we sit here. And the way that a student becomes college and career ready today is they have to receive a certain score, and you can see those scores on the slide, on the English 10 MCAP exam and one of the 3 math MCAP exams, that being Algebra 1, Algebra 2, or Geometry, or to score 520 on the math SAT. So in English, to be CCR, your only opportunity is how well you perform on the English 10 MCAP, and not or, and CCR is your both math and English, not either or. So you got to get your ELA 10 test, and then one of the following tests in math, you have to be proficient in Algebra 1, Algebra 2, or Geometry, or get the qualifying score on the math SAT. That's what we're under right now. If a student does that, they're considered CCR, and they move on to bigger and better things in their junior and senior years. If they are not, by blueprint law, we have to remediate those students in a myriad of ways to try to get them to become CCR before they graduate. So the first mark is at the end of 10th grade, and if they're not there, then we have until the end of their high school career. I do want to make it very clear, as it stands right now, right, wrong, or indifferent, the CCR designation is not a graduation requirement. The schools are graded, quote unquote, on their CCR indicators, but a student is not held accountable via graduation by that designation. Next slide, please, Chad. The newly adopted CCR standard, which will go into effect next school year, changes the way that they grade those CCR students for that designation. It's still based on English and math, but you'll see as we talk about this, the emphasis is absolutely on math above English. This slide shows 2 options to get to CCR. I'll actually explain it a little differently. The way that we put it in our planning guide, which we think spells it out a little bit better, there's kind of 3 options. It's the same way to say the same thing. You can do it through the math, through Algebra 1 MCAP score and the English MCAP score, same as before. They've taken out the SAT option, they've taken out the geometry option, they've taken out the Algebra 2 option. The option is Algebra 1 MCAP and ELA 10. If you score the qualifying score on those 2 exams, you're CCR, period. If you don't do that, Another option that you can do is you can have an unweighted high school GPA of a 3.0, which in our case is a B, and earn a grade of an A, B, or C in Algebra 1, the class. So another way to become CCR in the newly adopted measure starting next year, you could conceivably not get the cut score on either exam, but you have a 3.0 high school unweighted GPA and you got a B or a C or an A in Algebra 1, you will be deemed college and career ready. That's another option. The third option still maintains the 3.0 unweighted GPA and you score the cut score on the Algebra NCAP exam. So if you have a 3.0, you got the cut score on the algebra exam. You did not get the cut score on English. You're still CCR. So you can do one of three things. MCAP Algebra 1, MCAP English together, you're good. 3.0 GPA and an A, B, or C in Algebra 1, regardless of test scores, you're good. 3.0 GPA and a good score on the Algebra 1 MCAP, you're good. That's how you become CCR next year into the future. So you can see the difference in how the state has taken away a couple of options, but added a couple options. And these options with the GPA will impact us relatively significantly, that we will have more students college and career ready based on the GPA option availability. Chad, can you flip to the next one? You can see the proposed timeline. Basically, it's exactly what we said. To make it simple, it starts next year. So that's the easy way to look at it. And what students are doing now, even though they're under one standard today, if they don't meet that standard of today's standard, but it does meet next year's, come next year, they'll become CCR, if that makes sense. So next slide, please. And so you can see the next steps. Again, I won't read that to you. Basically, the next steps are, there's just a couple I want to highlight. Obviously, the next step is next year. What I just explained to you will be the new standard. So we're phasing out from the old standard to the new standard. That will take place next year. The state will continuously look at measures to see if down the road they may change this target again. So my guess is before the blueprint expires 9 years from now, we could see that measure change yet again, maybe multiple times. But time will tell. They are continuously researching that. One thing they are talking about that is significant to note, I made a point to mention earlier that as we sit here right now, the CCR designation is not tied to graduation. They are, they are analyzing that. I think there are many people in the state that would like to see the CCR designation somehow tied to a graduation requirement, much the same as the HSA exams were years ago and so on. Time will tell if that comes to fruition or not, but that is being discussed. Another thing that is being discussed that is very important for our teachers to hear, and it has not been decided, first and foremost, but it is being discussed, and I think it's important for teachers to know so that they can follow it, and if they have strong feelings about it, they can comment on this as the comment period opens. But because of the emphasis right now on math, and in particular Algebra 1, and the variability in what Garrett County may give a student for an A, B, or C in Algebra 1 and what Worcester County may give and Montgomery County may give, as a standard, one thing they are discussing is a common curriculum for Algebra 1. To try to standardize that a little bit more than it currently is. Don't know if that will pass or not. It won't go into effect next year, but it is listed as next steps, and it is something that is being considered. I know for a fact that our teachers will have strong feelings about that one way or the other, and I strongly recommend them to pay close attention to that and share their opinion with the appropriate folks when that comment period opens. I think that's the last slide, Chad. Questions? Dr. Miller, did I do a good job on that? Okay. Anything you want to add? You're the expert. Any questions?
Questions by anyone? You did mention, Mr. Edwards, about CCR. Once it's accomplished, it leads to many additional things for students. You want to just talk for a second so that people in the audience would understand
Sure.
why that's important to try to accomplish that as quickly as possible?
Yeah, so if you don't reach CCR, let's start with that. If you don't meet CCR by the end of 10th grade, in your 11th grade year, you will have to do remediation. That is a state law. That will look different for everyone because the other part of the blueprint says that everyone will get an individualized blueprint remediation plan. So what one person may have may be different than another. But for many people, what that means is it will be additional classes they have to take in English and math, which will be less classes that they can take that they want to take, electives, fine arts, career and tech, et cetera, college courses, et cetera. What the post-CCR pathways open up for students at the end of 10th grade, if everybody is college, if you're college and career ready, the options on the table for you are dual enrollment courses with Garrett College. We also have a program with Frostburg right now that our board members taking part in and doing very well. We also have a multitude of CTE programs that students can take advantage of. We have an apprenticeship program, which we're rolling out right now with great success. Actually, that's becoming very popular. I think will become even more popular. But again, if you're not college and career ready, you may not be able to take advantage of those because you will have obligations in math and English that you have to meet that may supersede your ability to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. And a lot of AP courses as well.
Any questions, comments? Any additional questions, comments? Okay, if you'll stay there,
I can.
we're gonna 20 minutes away from public comments, so we're gonna skip on down to new business, and we're gonna talk about the new secondary school schedule, which I think you were gonna present as well.
I will be happy to do so. So because of, let's talk about the why first. We will have a new secondary education schedule next year that will be in effect for 6th through 12th grade. The reason for that is multiple fold. One, the grade band realignment consolidation on the southern end is going to move 7th and 8th graders into high schools. Middle school and high school right now do not have the same schedule. And we all felt it very important to have the same schedule. From the visits we took and talking with different principals and different administrators and superintendents in different districts that have that grade band, they made it very clear, crystal clear to us that one school, one community, you really need to be on the same schedule and everybody has to feel like they're part of the school environment. We believed in that. The teaching staff that we pulled together to work on this believed in that. A lot of the students that we spoke with believed in that philosophy. And then at the northern end, although we're not consolidating the grade bands the same way we are in the South, we consolidated the administration. And part of the allure of being able to do that in a declining enrollment environment where we had to cut some staff for a couple of reasons, it allows two things. It allows staff to be shared between the northern campus buildings to to get more critical mass to be able to offer more electives because there's more adults available to teach certain classes, and then also to be able to move students. In particular, one of the main things Blueprint pushes that we're trying very hard to achieve is to be able to accelerate students to be able to get to CCR quicker and get into some of those post-CCR pathways faster, which means ultimately to be able to provide middle school students with high school credit-bearing opportunities. It's very hard to do that if you're not on the same schedule. It's actually quite difficult to do if you're not on the same schedule. We have some students right now that are finding that out. We've made it work, but it's as more students take advantage of these opportunities, it will become much harder. So that's the why. So the how is we took teachers from all 4 of the secondary schools. We had, I believe, 5 teachers from both middle schools and both high schools, central office staff and administrators on a committee to analyze various schedules and to try to come up with one that we all agreed on. I am surprised and pleased to say that we came to unanimous consent relatively quickly on what we wanted to do, which has been hard to get unanimous consent on anything in recent years, but we were able to do that. And when I met with students from, again, both middle schools and both high schools, had some fantastic student feedback. The student feedback we got was critical in creating this. I think it was important for the teachers to hear the feedback from the students, and they took that very seriously and actually incorporated a lot of those comments into the schedule that I'll present shortly. And the students were able to understand what we were trying to accomplish better, and I think they bought into what we were doing as well, and were very appreciative of having the opportunity to participate in that. Next slide, Chad. So you'll see on the screen what the schedules will be next year. Staff and students have been made aware of this. I think this is the first time it's actually being publicized to the public at large. What we have done is moved the high school schedule from a traditional 4-period semesterized schedule to a 5-period semesterized schedule. And what we did to the middle school was they maintain a 5-period day, although the times changed a little bit. We've actually added time to their day, and there are opportunities in there to move students at semester breaks in certain instances. So what you'll see on the screen is simply the regular day schedule, the early out schedule, the 2-hour delay schedule, and the 3-hour delay schedule. Next slide, please, Chad. Major differences you'll see, there are just a couple. The time between classes is changing to 4 minutes instead of 5. Currently, there's 5 minutes in place for students to switch classes. It will be moved to 4. In talking with the student groups, in particular at both high schools, not one single student expressed a concern about the loss of a minute. They all supported that particular move. The starting time, you'll see a difference there as well. The student day will actually begin at 8:20 instead of 8:25. That's another way to gain a couple of minutes in the schedule. Teachers were fine with that. Students thought that was a good idea. We had no concerns expressed about the change in start time. That change shouldn't do anything to any other schools. There's a slight bus issue at one of the elementary schools that we're working through that only impacts Northern Middle. On the back end, the high school will be fine. It would just be the middle school. We're talking 2 minutes, so I don't think that's going to be a big deal. We're working through that. Class adjustments, as we mentioned, the middle school classes add 5 minutes per day, while the high school classes are reduced by 15 minutes per class because the class is going to be 65 minutes long, but they'll add a class. to the schedule daily. So again, consensus of the students was that this was a good move, and the staff fell right in line. It was interesting when we surveyed the staff and the students, the sweet spot for length of class period per day was somewhere around 60 to 75 minutes. So we said 60 to 70, and 65 is right in the middle of that sweet spot that the staff and students both sort of identified. So we thought that worked pretty well. And then there is the remedial period at the end of the day, the pause period, the RAMS period, whatever you want to call it, stays intact. And it actually adds 5 minutes, and that is very important, especially for some special education reasons. But there's a lot of flexibility that period provides us. The students were adamant they wanted to keep that period. Northern, Southern, middle, and high school students across the board found real value in that, and we were able to maintain that period and add a little bit to it. Chad, next slide, please. The advantages as we see it and as the committee saw it, along with the mechanical change of the schedule from 4 periods to 5 at the high school level and from 60 minutes to 65 minutes at the middle school level, is that all of the tested areas at the high school will gain time due to having year-long classes rather than semesterized classes. That was one thing the teachers were very concerned about, especially with losing time, was making sure we had adequate time to cover the curriculum. So we took all AP classes with one exception and all MCAP tested areas and made those classes year-long. So they will actually gain time in those classes. They'll go to 180 hours as opposed to 120 hours. As you can see, that's for MCAP and AP. It is slightly different for algebra. Up until this point, algebra at the high school had been a year long at 80 minutes. That is changing, but I'm going to talk about math in just a second and another big change that we're making. But our more mathematically challenged students will actually add time, and I'll explain that in just a second. The flexibility, the same schedule for all grades, we already talked about this, allows for greater flexibility with staff and students so that we can move those students in the building easier. 8th graders at either end of the county will have a easier opportunity to participate in high school options, and will also be able to share staff better. And we articulated that there, and hopefully it will also allow for some smaller class sizes in certain areas. And then opportunities. As we mentioned, Blueprint is very specific that we have to accelerate and remediate students in middle school differently than we are now. And we have to look for ways to speed up accelerated students, and we have to find ways to provide extra help for students that need extra help. We think this schedule allows that to happen. And we have identified 4 opportunities currently for middle school to earn high school credits, which will actually start next year. And the Blueprint also charges us to continuously look for ways to improve that. And I think when we start getting our expert review team visits, one of the things they're going to want to look at is, here's your baseline. You had, in this case, 4 opportunities for middle school students to earn high school credits this year. 5 years from now, I think the expectation is that there'll be more opportunities. So we will continuously look for those opportunities. What we have identified so far is opportunities in the fine arts, in tech ed, in mathematics, and in JROTC. Again, that does not mean that 3 years from now that list will be exactly the same. My guess is it will be different. There will be continued additional opportunities for students as we move forward. And the benefit of that, if you think about it, for the accelerated students, they can pick up some high school credits in advance and give them more opportunity once they get to high school to take more of the classes they want to take, the AP classes, the college classes, the dual enrollment classes, the CTE classes, whatever the case may be. The benefit to the students that might struggle more academically is traditionally they fail classes. We don't like to talk about that, but it's a reality. And when you fail a math class or an English class or a science class or a social studies class, you have to retake that class. And when you retake that class, you're not taking a class you want to be in, which is a CTE class or a college class or whatever. So the committee did a lot of discussion about ways to get high school credits for students in 8th grade, even if they're not accelerated students. And that's where we're at with the fine arts opportunities, the tech ed opportunities. The math opportunity is going to be a little bit more for the accelerated students. You're going to have certain scores to get there and accelerate in math. The goal there is to get you to calculus in high school, because you can't if you don't accelerate in middle school. But for the students that may fail a class or two once they get to high school, if we can bank them a credit or two of high school credits before they get there, they already have those credits in the bank, so to speak. And so if they have to repeat a course, they already are carrying some credits with them. So it's not necessarily we're pulling you from courses. You'll still be on track to graduate. Adding that 5th class helps with that as well. I do want to mention, looking down the line, we've already identified a couple of other areas we need to do some more research on, and foreign language is one of them. There's a couple other opportunities we've already identified as options. But I want to go back to math, because another part of this scheduling change that we've decided to do is we are going to swap geometry and algebra 1. Right now, the matriculation in math is algebra 1. The advanced kids in 8th grade get algebra 1, and then they come into high school and they take geometry in 9th grade, algebra 2 in 10th grade, and advance to calculus or some college classes as they move forward. The students that are not advanced, quote unquote, do Math 8, which is algebra based, and then they move in the 9th grade. They do algebra, 10th grade geometry, 11th grade algebra 2, and then in 12th grade, either algebra 3 or some type of math class that is non-trivial in nature. By moving geometry and algebra 1, which again was unanimously supported by the math departments at both schools. We've talked with the 8th grade teachers about this as well. We find many advantages to this. One, the MCAP exam that determines CCR is algebra 1. Across the board, across the state, and especially here, as you guys are well aware, that's where we struggle the most. One of the things that happens is when our advanced students in middle school, and this makes no sense, but it is what it is, our advanced students in middle school are taking algebra 1, the high school credit algebra 1. They get high school credit for algebra 1. They take the algebra 1 MCAP exam. They do not count in the high school's algebra 1 count. So our best students that would be in the 9th grade class taking algebra 1 aren't counting in that count. And they pass at about a 98% clip. So they do very well, but we don't get credit for it. You might think, well, that's good because the middle school is getting credit. They don't get credit at the middle school either because they only measure the MCAP 8 at the middle school. So our best performing 8th graders are not captured in our data. This fixes that. Not only that, more importantly, for the students that come in and take algebra 1 as 8th grade or as 9th graders, in 10th grade, they're a year more mature. They've got another year of math under their belt, regardless of what that math is. We think they will be much better prepared to take the math algebra 1 MCAP exam in 10th grade than in 9th grade. So what will happen is our advanced 8th graders will take geometry in 8th grade. Then they will take algebra 1 in high school. They'll take the test a year later. We'll get full credit for their success. And my guess is they'll pass at somewhere close to 100% pass rate because they're our best students. The students that take the more traditional route will take MCAP 8 in 8th grade. Then they will take geometry in 9th grade. And then they will take algebra 1 in 10th grade. Again, a year more mature, a year more ready. And what we are looking at is for the students that struggle a lot in geometry, again, if they're not CCR at the end of 10th grade, we have to remediate them in particular ways. We're also mandated to remediate them before they get there if we know they're not going to be successful. And we've created a course called Algebra Essentials that, depending on your score on the MCAP 8, you could be put in that class as a 9th grader, so you'll have even another opportunity to learn your algebra skills before you get to 10th grade. So that's the schedule change.
Okay, questions, comments about the schedule change? Anyone? I do like the remediation period at the end of the day, the intervention period. As a high school person, all of my career, especially when it was involved with athletics, there are lots of times that kids have to leave school early or playoff considerations, et cetera, et cetera. If they've got a math class the last period, they're going to miss a half hour of the math class. Now they're going to miss an intervention class, which is a non-credit class. Certainly helpful, but they're at least in their credit classes the entire time. So that's a real good move.
Just a couple questions here, Tom. And Paul, you may or not have the answers for these. So is the plan for Northern Middle and Northern High then, because you talked about sharing resources as far as teachers were concerned, for the teachers to move or the students to move with the teacher?
I think the answer to that is both, and I'll give you an example of both of those. So right now we're talking about the addition of theater to the middle school. Southern has that as a class right now. Northern does not. We're going to add theater to Northern Middle School next year, and our theater teacher at the high school will be the theater teacher of the middle school. So that teacher will move back and forth. We're already doing that with foreign language. We think there's an opportunity for band as well to help build the band and have the same band director in the high school also teach at least the 8th grade band and so on. We also have a student right now, interestingly enough, who's a very advanced middle school student who is taking some high school classes. We had to build a schedule around that. It was very difficult because the schedules weren't the same, which is what I mentioned before. But we do have an example right now of a student that's leaving the middle school and going to high school. Furthermore, next year we're adding dance. We have to add dance to be in compliance with MSDE's fine arts credits. And we have a beautiful dance studio at Northern Middle School. It's never been used. And, in the beginning of the conversation of adding dance, we were looking at 20 to 25, which today's probably $50,000 worth of renovation to the high school to add a dance studio. And we finally wised up and said, why don't we just take the kids to the high school, because the dance studio is already right there. And it's beautiful. It's everything they need. So that would be another example of those kids going back and forth in campus. We're still working on the logistics, but I think you'll see both of those things occur.
And then my second question would be, and maybe you saw for this also, so for dual enrollment, both Southern and Northern end, your classes right now are 65 minutes, but if I'm a dual enrolled student taking a Tuesday, Thursday class, for example, which are typically longer class periods, are usually your 90-minute classes, how are you going to solve for that?
So we met with the college last week, and long story short, the college did us a solid, and they're extending their semester for dual enrolled students. So that's how we fix the problem. We're still going to get the hours required. They just won't be traditionally 90-minute classes. They'll have to fit within our time frame. But they work with us. They ask us not to schedule afternoon classes, which we said we would do. In return, they were able to do that. So we've been able to work together to mitigate that issue.
I had a question.
Sure.
You talked about how you were going to extend them to make them year-long courses on the classes where they're getting tested.
Mm-hmm.
So for some of those, like the history classes, I know government, there's an exam, but like an example, world history, there's not. So would world history stay a semester-long
Yes.
course? Okay.
Yep. And interestingly that you bring that up, because government is the only tested area that will not be year-long, and that is due to the request of those teachers. AP will be, but the regular government class will not.
Other questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you.
We are at 7:03, so we are going to move to public comment. The Garrett County Board of Education is pleased to receive comments and ideas from our public pertaining to policies, procedures, and/or practices of the school system. We ask that comments be limited to a maximum time of 3 minutes per individual, unless otherwise considered by the board president. There will be no discussion or action taken at this meeting, but may be considered at a future meeting. Issues that are specific to individual employees should be referred to the immediate supervisor for appropriate consideration and review. Rude, slanderous, or threatening remarks or other behavior that is disruptive or interferes with the order of the meeting will not be permitted. We will keep everyone to 3 minutes because we do have about 17, 18 people who'd like to speak tonight. And so please, when you get to your 3 minutes, finish your sentence or two, and we ask that you allow the next person to speak. There is a clock that you'll see on our board, and we'll start that clock when you start. Chad, do you need to set up something? You want to go ahead and turn that one on, Chad, the one you want them to use? It's already on? Okay. The first person is Kevin Lyons, speaking about an incident at an elementary school.
On Wednesday, January 25th, I received a phone call from an employee at my daughter's elementary school after school hours at around 3:20 p.m. She said that my daughter was in the health room and being seen over a complaint that it was painful when she peed. She said that she checked my daughter over and should be okay. I naturally assumed by checking out she meant normal nurse triage. I arrived home from work that day and told my daughter that the school had called and said that she was in the health room complaining about, it hurting when she pees. I asked my daughter if this was true. She said yes. Then my daughter said that they checked my private parts. I asked who they were. She said the school nurse, a lady she didn't know, and her teacher. My daughter then said that she was embarrassed and sad that her teacher had seen her private parts and she never wanted to see her again. I asked her how they checked her private parts. She said that they had her pull down her pants, the rest of her private parts, so she could be further exposed. All this happened between 2:30 and 3:10 dismissal of school. Next morning, I took my daughter to urgent care in McHenry, where she was diagnosed with a simple UTI. Same morning, I called and notified central office and notified principal and requested a meeting at the school. I was contacted by the person in charge of nurses at Garrett County School System. She could not give a reason why the teacher was being in the health.
Mr. Lyons, because of legal issues, please refrain from positions, talking about positions and names of those employees. So we're not allowed to do that in public session.
Okay.
Okay?
She would not give a reason why the person was in the health room. School and central office scheduled a meeting later that day. In that meeting, everything that my daughter told us the day before was confirmed that it had happened. We then were told by a member of central office that due to the privacy policies, we would never know the punishment or if there was a punishment or the outcome of the investigation. When asked by two separate central office employees what myself and her mother would like done of the situation, we asked, since our daughter was a victim in the situation, we felt that the employees that were involved should be removed from a particular school, especially considering there's an ongoing investigation. And the person in there, one of the people that was in there was not designated as the healthcare staff, team, which violates Maryland school policy.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Our next speaker is Whitney Lyons, incident at elementary school.
I'm just going to continue after my husband. The solution the school central office came up with was to try a reentry into the school with my daughter changing classrooms. My daughter was uncomfortable with the reentry plan from the beginning because she never wanted to see these people again and they were still working in her school. Her father felt that this plan would rob her of a normal elementary school experience. But we thought it wouldn't hurt to try. The day of the reentry plan, my daughter was in the counselor's office 3 times by 11 a.m. because she was struggling. When I arrived at the school at 1 p.m. for a meeting, she was again in the counselor's office. She then begged me to please send her to another school. I explained that if we changed schools that she would not see some of her friends possibly until 6th grade. She looked at me in the eye and said, "I am fine with that. I don't want to be here anymore." Later on that evening, I received a message from a parent in my daughter's classroom stating that her child had came home saying that the teacher in question had told the class that my daughter peed in a bottle, her pee was sick, and that she needed to sit on thin chairs instead of thick ones. This was later confirmed by another parent. The teacher perpetrated the situation and just made matters worse by addressing the issue in a way that puts my daughter in an awkward position to try to explain what was told to her by her friends and classmates by her teacher. It was at this point, it was impossible to try a reentry plan. My daughter is now attending a different school in a different town and also has an increase of a bus ride 25 minutes to and from school. She arrives to school last after school has already started and has to leave school first in the evening before anyone else. My 6-year-old knew it didn't feel right before she even told me what happened. I cannot tell her this was okay by doing so, possibly opening her up to being abused by someone in a trusted position of power with bad motives in the future. The employees involved haven't lost anything. A day's work, a day's pay, they continue to teach and go to work every day. Do you know who lost in every single way in this situation? My daughter. She lost her school she loved, teachers she loved, friends she loved so very much. I met with the state's attorney where I unfortunately found out that Maryland state laws are behind when it comes to what is defined as child abuse or sexual abuse. In the last few years, legislators have been pushing to change that law to cover mental abuse as well. There are no statute of limitations on child abuse or sexual abuse against a minor in the state of Maryland, so we look forward to the day that legislation is changed. Until then, my only option is to fight at an administrative level. That is where I plan to focus my energy until I feel that sufficient justice has been served, adequate enough to account for how this has affected my daughter. Every single person I have talked to from central office and the school staff had admitted this should have never happened. Everyone is very apologetic, but there have been no repercussions. The central office has tried to hush me by offering private sessions, private meetings with board members, calling me multiple times over the phone about this meeting today, and doing everything they can to appease me other than punishing the people responsible. You say you want to do a private session to protect my daughter. You have done nothing to protect my daughter. So who are you protecting? Vaginal exams would never be attempted with a middle or a high school girl. So what makes it okay for a 6-year-old little girl? It's not. If anything, I find it more disturbing because she trusted these people in trusted positions so much so that she ignored her gut feeling that this was wrong and still did as they asked of her. If a middle school or a high school student was subjected to a vaginal exam by a health nurse, nursing assistant, and teacher in this county, it would be up in arms. This situation is not going away. I am not going away. I will not be hushed. What was done is wrong, and everyone here knows it, yet fails to act. I will be at every future board meeting and a thorn in your side until I feel that sufficient justice has been served or the laws change.
Thank you, Ms. Lyons. Gloria Salazar, Student Safety.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm here to speak on behalf of students who are marginalized in school and who are repeatedly bullied and threatened and who find solace and comfort in a classroom with a rainbow flag. And the rainbow flag to these students represents a safe space. Someplace where they know they're not going to be bullied, they're not going to be judged, they're not going to be put down for whatever reason. I have spent the last 18 months with other members of the community conducting listening tours in the county on behalf of our commissioners. And I have heard from young people that are marginalized in our county, and their stories have moved me to tears because of the ongoing harassment and bullying and threatening that they receive in school. And for them to have a classroom where they know they can go and feel safe is paramount for their academic success. You are all educators. You all know that what happens to the brain if we're in a fight or flight mode. There is no learning going on at that time. And as a former high school social worker, I cannot stress the importance of every student deserving the right to feel safe for the entire school day. And we don't have that. We don't have that here in Garrett County. So for schools and teachers, for teachers to choose to put a rainbow flag in their classroom as a sign to students that they are safe in that classroom is a really vital and important piece for us to allow for it to continue, because no marginalized student deserves to be harassed and bullied in school. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Zacchaeus Bentley, student. And I assume you're the father, Jimmy?
Yes, I am.
Jimmy Bentley.
Hello, I am Zacchaeus Bentley, a student at Southern Garrett High School. There is a pride flag in my English class. The pride flag is distracting and disturbing to me, and I have a hard time focusing on my work. This flag goes against my religious beliefs. I don't feel like or believe this flag has no place in this classroom, which happens to be our classroom also. We shouldn't have to be threatened and intimidated by this pride flag or a teacher's personal beliefs. This flag makes me sick to my stomach. It makes me nauseous. I find it disgusting. This teacher makes me and the students in her class participate in yoga exercises, which again is against my religious beliefs. Yoga derives from Hindu religion origins. I feel like doing these yoga exercises is participating in religious exercises in a English classroom that I don't believe in and is against my religious beliefs and values. I believe this flag or any other flag has no place in our classrooms or other public school systems. As a Christian, we all know what this flag represents, which is why me and other students feel threatened by this teacher and this flag. The United States flag represents all of our beliefs and religious and no need for other flags in the classrooms besides the United States flag or the Maryland state flag.
Thank you. Zacchaeus.
I'm Jimmy Bentley. I am a Christian father of two. I have two children that goes to Garrett County schools. I'm frustrated at continuing to hear stories that come from our public schools being taught and allowed against most parents' wishes and beliefs. We teach our children a biblical worldview. Romans 12:1-2 says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God. As Christian parents, we teach our children that what we do with our bodies is a form of worship. Our bodies is to be a living sacrifice unto God. Doing yoga exercises is a Hindu form of religion
We don't practice or believe in this religion. It fringes on my children's Christian beliefs. The Bible also teaches us to be conformed, not to be conformed to this world. That pride flag represents perversion and a worldly sexual view, which also is against what we teach our children. This worldview being allowed in our classroom also infringes on our children's Christian beliefs. Prayer was removed from school because someone didn't want that child to practice something they didn't believe in. As a Christian father who is teaching my child a biblical worldview and belief, this pride flag is an infringement on their religious beliefs and has no place in public schools. Teachers' ideology and personal beliefs has no place in our schools. It's my opinion yoga and the pride flag represents form of religion and what people do with their bodies in forms of worship. I don't believe that there's any place for this in our schools whatsoever. What they do on their own time is fine, but and my son was also afraid to even speak up about this, afraid that he may be targeted by failing in the class or whatever. Listen, I try to teach my children a Christian biblical view, and I don't believe. What's the difference when prayer was removed from school over a belief than this flag? And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Just for clarification, Mr. Bentley signed up for his 3 minutes and so did his son, so they had a total of 6 minutes to speak. Amy Shatterly, I think it is, parent.
Hi, good evening. Yes, my name is Ann Schnatterly. I am actually the parent of a graduated Northern, but a citizen of Garrett County. I am a Christian parent of a transgender child who believes in the soul of my child. I am here to speak regarding this petition. I think that, the background of the pride flag, that it's been a symbol of pride for the community since 1978. The flag's designer found it to be one of the most powerful symbols of our society. As we know, we all represent ourselves through a variety of flags. The various colors of the pride flag reflect the immense diversity and the unity of the LGBTQ community. It's a symbol of hope for people who are often stigmatized because of their identity. The flag and the people who fly the flag send a message that the youth are not alone and that there are people who are committed to ensuring their safety and visibility. Feeling safe at school is not a political issue. It's not a religious issue. The pride flag serves as a message that they're supported in intense bullying at school. As we know, as educators and parents, negative conditions at school affect the likelihood that our youth will be successful, impacting dropout rates, absenteeism, higher levels of depression, anxiety, and lower self-esteem. According to the Trevor Project and multiple cited journals, suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people aged 10 to 24, regardless of their orientation, and LGBTQ youth are significantly increased risk. LGBTQ youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than their cisgender or straight peers. Research also conducted by the project found that these youth who reported having at least one LGBTQ affirming space reported lower rates of attempting suicide. Not all children do have this with their homes. Research has found that school-based actions that address and dispel prejudice and discrimination are likely to reduce bullying and harassment directed towards LGBTQ youth. As I mentioned, I'm a parent of a Garrett County graduate who identifies in the LGBTQ community, who is open in their transgender life through their high school, and was supported through multiple educators, whether they personally or professionally had the same beliefs. I implore you to allow any teacher that wants or wishes to fly the pride in their class, their pride flag in their classroom, if they choose to share this symbol and provide this message of safety to our youth. Again, it's not a political issue. It's not a religious issue. It's a religious to support our children and our youth. Thank you.
Malachi Parsons, parents petition. His father, James Parson, also signed up for 3 minutes, so they have a total of 6 minutes to speak.
Good evening. My name is Malachi Parsons. I'm here tonight to inform you about an issue with a flag being displayed in our schools and how they affect the students and staff. I speak not only for myself, but for fellow classmates who are afraid to speak up and come forward. There is a classroom at Southern Garrett High School that has a large pride flag on display. Upon seeing it, I felt it shouldn't be in an English class and asked the teacher, can you take it down? And they replied, it's not bothering anyone, and it's there to welcome the students who are that way. The flag did bother me, and it didn't make me feel welcome or included. So I brought in my flag, which is the same size as the pride flag that's on display in the room. My flag is something I and other classmates felt passionate about and supported our military, country, and our cross. I asked the teacher, can you put it up, or if I could please drape it over my desk. The teacher told me no, that it's a distraction and it's too big and too overpowering. So later, another student brought in a small straight flag and placed it on their desk, and we all went to lunch. While we were gone, the teacher had taken this student's flag, folded it, and laid it on their backpack. When we came back, the student again laid it on their desk, and the teacher immediately told them to put it away. And then when asked why, the teacher didn't give a reason except because I said, and they sent the student to the office. These actions and statements by the teacher makes me think this teacher only wants to welcome students that share in their sexuality beliefs. Their pride flag is not being inclusive or other students' points of view or beliefs. I feel threatened by this teacher and this flag. I feel that this teacher wants me to identify with the pride flag, which represents one's sexuality beliefs. However, it is against my religious beliefs and where it condones a sin. This teacher wants us to change our identity by changing our names in class. What's next? Our gender, our sexuality. Sexuality shouldn't be an issue in English class or any classroom for that matter. Our teachers are supposed to teach us facts, resources, and tools to be successful in our future, not impose their belief on us on how they think and feel we should be. This flag was not used for a creative writing assignment. It was not used as a teaching tool. It was used to drive and discriminate upon one's sexual beliefs. I will not stop standing up or speaking up for my rights and beliefs until this flag, which is not all inclusive, is removed from our classrooms in Garrett County Public Schools. I was told once this is all over, I will still have a target on my back, but I was taught to stand up for what is right, and what this teacher is doing is wrong. I ask you to only allow state and government flags to be displayed on school grounds unless it is for educational purposes approved by the board. If not, then all flags should be allowed to be on display if requested by student, faculty, and staff to feel welcome and included. Thank you.
My name is James Parsons. I am the father of Malachi Parsons. I am here to discuss an issue of a flag along with some other things that is targeting our kids at Southern High School. Lead me to believe our children are being indoctrinated. My son is bringing to my attention one of the classrooms, there are a few sexual flags being displayed by a teacher in the English class. I ask you, what does this flag have to do with anything with English? He is telling me, the teacher, to pick his own name. Now, he has a name. His name's Malachi Parsons, no other name. And if indoctrination, and definition of indoctrination is someone who's trying to teach a person one side of the views or something that dismiss or opinion that don't agree with their view. It can be understood that as a teacher, practitioner sets the beliefs and ideas and attention in individual or groups or group without allowing any positions of questions or challenging any. How do I know my son's being indoctrinated? He is being asked to do things that he feels is stupid. He has been told that he has to do some things because he was told to. He mean my son's most likely being indoctrinated. That has us teachers very good making their students obey their rules and normals. My son refused to express his basic political, social, religious beliefs, and tries to change his views. Education is being educated to involve a fact to learn about what is true. What is not is indoctrinating as to influence people with their beliefs and their facts without being able to back their newfounded facts with anything but their opinions. This flag should be taken down, or my son's students should be. May I finish?
Give you 30 seconds, Mr. Parsons.
Okay, the flag, I think it would be the best to have all the flags taken down, only 3 flags to be put up, the United States flag, the Maryland flag, and the Garrett County flag, and then there would be no controversy. My son is being targeted, he will be targeted after us. He stood up, he did not allow with any type, or with this type of a teacher. My son has been punished because of the classroom being sent to the office many times. This flag is a distraction in the classroom. What English has he learned? None. HB 0618, that is our parents' rights. The result to fix this problem is to remove my son and somebody else's son because they spoke up. Get rid of the voice. Get rid of the voice, not the problem. The problem needs to be fixed, not the voice be silent.
Thank you. Mikey Verts. Sure.
First Amendment protections extend to teachers and students, neither of whom shed their constitutional rights to freedom of speech or expression at the schoolhouse gate. Tinker versus Des Moines Independent Community School District. The bedrock principle of the Supreme Court's First Amendment jurisprudence ensures schools do not become grounds for authoritarian control over the future of the democracy. Similarly, the First Amendment prohibits content and viewpoint discrimination. Public schools may prohibit private on-campus speech only insofar as it substantially interferes with or disrupts the educational environment, or interferes with the rights of other students. Actual evidence or reasonable forecast of substantial disruption is required. Undifferentiated fear or apprehension of disturbance is insufficient. This flag is why I'm here, but I'm also here because this teacher has taught in a classroom setting for the past 17 years. They work weekends, they work nights grading, and I think every teacher that's in this room right now, and people have taught before, realize the amount of time you put in to mold students and shape their lives. And they get disrespected. Teachers are disrespected. I understand this, and I don't get why this teacher puts so much time and effort into their profession. And I tell this teacher such, I don't get it. Why do you do this? And I get a response. And that response is, They care. They care for the students. They want to create safe spaces for the students. They want to make the students think. Yes, that was a draped flag in the classroom, and it signifies a safe space. But it's also a pride flag, not of a sexual nature, but of a professional nature. It was given to this teacher from a student who had a tough time growing up. And this teacher provided a safe space so that the student could gain self-confidence and become a worthy leader in the community. And they gave this flag to this teacher. And the teacher puts it up to show that what they do matters. That's why the flag is in the room. And that's why they do it, because they want to have a positive effect on this community. Thank you. Also, every major religion is founded on love, and love thy neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Verts. The Reverend Dr. Chip Lee, Safe Spaces for All.
Thank you. I really don't want to be repeating what everybody else says, but I'll throw my oar in the water. I served in the U.S. Navy from 1966 to 1972, and I am also an egghead, bleeding heart liberal. I firmly believe that serving the flag and patriotism, there's been a lot of talk about flags and patriotism on Facebook and here tonight. And I'm also aware of the fact that there are a lot of people who cannot come to this flag as a symbol of justice and peace and hope. There are an awful lot of people who want to, but they're afraid to. This flag is not a symbol of a patriotic nature. Patriotism is about loving your country and doing things that serve the greater good for all people. There can be no outcasts in a patriotic mindset. Instead, of late, this flag has become a symbol of an ideology of nationalism, which is a much more extreme love of country and exclusivity, harming mostly foreigners, immigrants, even their own citizens who don't measure up to what the particular belief of that structure is. And that mostly expresses itself in religious and racial concerns. Jesus says there are only two commandments. Love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other requirement. And until we have a safe place for all people, as this pride flag proves in this classroom, until we can turn this flag again, once again, to be the ideal to turn to and find a safe haven, a place of respect and liberty and justice for all, we're not going to have much hope of getting everyone included. When a minority stands up and says, "Me too," and we return with "All lives matter," or "I stand for the flag and kneel for prayer," that's all great stuff to say. But from the minority who's standing up and says, "Me too," all they hear is the majority saying, "Sit down, be quiet, know your place." And we cannot have that as Americans in this country. And that's what that flag is supposed to stand for. And at the moment, it doesn't. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Lee. Christina, I can't, your last name? Could be. I should know that name, shouldn't I? Please come up. My wife should have taught me better lessons at reading.
My name's Chrissy Marucci. I am a parent of Broadford Elementary School students, specifically 5th grade and 1st grade. There have been numerous issues going on at Broadford, and us as parents want to know, one, what is being done to mitigate the issues with the consistent, persistent behavioral issues that are happening. Is that something that would be discussed at a further meeting? Or is it something that we could get on the agenda for sometime soon? I really don't have anything else. If I can refer the rest of my time to somebody else that is sitting back there.
Sorry, we're not allowed to defer time either.
Okay. I guess we should have signed up together then. Thank you.
Thank you. Kay DeWitt, Southern High. Pardon me?
My son, Britton DeWitt. I think he's right below me.
Yes, he is.
I didn't know we could do it.
Sure. You both have 3 minutes or the total of 6, but I can't let you go beyond that.
Total 6.
Okay.
All right. Good evening, members of the board. I am here today to address 2 troubling incidents that have affected my children within our school district. Firstly, regarding my son, it deeply concerns me that he was denied the right to express his identity through his straight flag, while a teacher was permitted to display pride flags in her classroom. This inconsistency in treatment not only undermines the principle of equality, but also sends a message that certain identities are valued over others. Okay, and also I want everyone to know, we offered to donate a straight flag. I'm not trying to force anyone to remove flags. Okay, I support all rights. Just putting that out there. Furthermore, the fact that my son was subject to derogatory remarks and was removed from the teacher's classroom without any consequences for those responsible is very unacceptable. Every student deserves to feel safe and respected in their learning environment, regardless of their sexual preference or beliefs. Secondly, my daughter has been experiencing bullying at another school within the district. Despite our efforts to bring attention to the situation, there has been a lack of effective action taken to address the bullying behavior exhibited by her peers. This has caused immense distress for my daughter and our family. These incidents have had profound impact on both of my children, and I am deeply troubled by the failure of our school district to adequately address them. It is important that the board takes decisive action to assure the safety and well-being of all students within our district, no matter their identities. I urge the board to implement measures to prevent discrimination and bullying, to provide a clear plan of action to address these incidents. Additionally, I am willing to work with the school and the board to create more supportive environment for all students, but I refuse to allow anyone to deny my or any children's right as a Christian, straight American student. I understand after this, there may have a target on my back, my children's back, but in this county, I'm not shocked. Good thing that I have tough skin, he has tough skin, my daughter has tough skin, and we have God on our side. So thank you for your attention to these matters, and I look forward to your action on this pressing issue. Kay DeWitt, AKA the Mama Bear.
Good evening, esteemed board members. My name is Britton DeWitt, and I'm a student at Southern Garrett High School. I've come out here to address an issue that I believe is important for the well-being of the students in our school. Recently, I brought a straight flag in my English classroom as a way to express my identity and create a sense of purpose for myself, just like the pride flag does for others. However, when I displayed my flag, my teacher asked me to remove it. When I asked why, they wouldn't tell me, and then they kicked me out of the class, citing it as a distraction. When I offered to donate the flag to promote inclusively for all the students, I was again told to remove it or leave the class. This experience left me confused and marginalized. I believe that all students should be able to express themselves in a respectful and inclusive environment. My intention was not to disrupt the class, but to foster a sense of belonging for myself and others like me. As a student, I value fairness and equality in our school community. I respectfully request that the board considers reviewing the school's policies regarding classroom decor and students' expression to ensure that all students feel accepted and valued regardless of their identities. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Tiffany Raines, parent.
Good evening, esteemed board members. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I have a 20-year-old. I'm of trans part of the LGBTQIA community, and I have been working with a number of young adults in the environment, working with the Diversity and Inclusion Committee to make sure that we were bringing those voices to light, because a lot of these kids are not going to show up in an environment like this. I think all of us know that the use of marginalized is about people who have been diminished and are part of a small and unimportant group, or relegated to a small and unimportant group. And straight people are not, and Christians in this county are not, but the children who I have spoken with who were young adults, I had a dozen of them in a room with me who were aged 16 to 24, and they were sharing specifically the bullying and aggression that they were treated with at Southern High School in particular. And this was all in the last couple of years. These are individuals who want so badly to be a part of the community, and the first thing that they wanted to do as a group was to help other high school students, not to be discriminated against. And the fact that these kids have felt diminished when they walk into school and they haven't felt safe needs to be a conversation that all of us are having, that these are kids who are routinely and persistently discriminated against and bullied, and having a pride flag in an environment where they at least know that there is a safe classroom or a safe person that they can speak to is critical. This is a group of children. The Maryland Commission on LGBTQIA+ Affairs put together an entire recommendation list of how to support the students in Maryland's K-12 schools. And when we're looking at these, there's a lot of things that we aren't necessarily doing in these schools, but using inclusive language and having teachers who are safe places and allowing them to see a signal, a sign that they're in a classroom where they are going to be supported is critical. I know personally 3 young adults who left Southern High School, who left or chose to get their GED because they felt that the discrimination and the bullying was too much. They did not feel safe. So that's just in my tiny little circle, and I would just implore you to stand on the side of the voices that you aren't hearing necessarily, because they're afraid to stand up and be publicly exposed, because they already do have targets on their backs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Raines. Philip Kinsinger, parent.
So my name's Philip Kinsinger, and I've spoke a couple times already. And to be in this building, kind of surprised. Because the way I understood, this is a condemned building. It wasn't fit for children to be taught in, and here we sit. I would love that one explained. And I know there's a couple other things. So, there's some that I've seen at Crossroads Church, and I'm glad that some people have went there. But I think they should listen to Dave Marsh's talking about some of this sex stuff, some of the biblical standpoints. I know we're not all Christians, but Christ is the only reason that we're here. And I know people push the LGBTQ, whatever flag, or the issue. I would like everybody to ask themselves, if we were all trans people, none of us would be here. Has anybody ever comprehended that? It's just something to thought of. But to me, this building, my first thing that I was going to come, it's like they said, we're going to Denner Road. I'm like, that's a condemned building. They said it's an unsafe place for students. Broadford's packed, from what I hear. The one parent said they have discipline trouble. Wouldn't this be a good place to utilize that for a one-on-one teaching? The money critics that they're fighting with, the Swan Meadow School stuff they're fighting with, if you guys keep going for bigger schools, you're going to lose more children, which creates less revenue. Anyway, if I push the calculator and each person is equal a certain amount of dollars, I mean, that's just kind of my thoughts. But I've seen a couple of you at Crossroads, and I'm like, I'm glad they're here, but I know there's people from either side of the flag here. But it's like, if the flag's the issue, go back to the Maryland flags. Go back to what we used to have, and have a healthy learning environment for one and all. But I think that's about all I have for now. I mean, the Swan Meadow issue, that's another issue, but I didn't really come to talk on that. It was just, once I heard it was a Dennett Road, I'm like, that's a condemned school, and we're having a public meeting. It's just something I would like clarified. I mean, why are we even here if it wasn't safe that we couldn't have school in here and have a one-on-one more with the teacher to student ratio? But I think that's all I have, and thanks for having me.
Oh, it is not a condemned building, nor would I be here if it was. And we do have children here every day, so it's we're all safe. Brianne Limley, parent. Wonderful.
Most of you know me fairly well. For you that don't, my name is Brianne Lemley. I spoke here back in October, I believe, about some problems we were having at Broadford. And that gentleman, he nailed it right on the head. Broadford is overpacked. There's no room for anything. There's no room for any more children at Broadford. We all know that they are bringing in 6 more classes. Please fact check me if I'm wrong. That's over 130 more students into a building that's already doubled up in every single class, not to mention discipline issues. So I went to our school improvement meeting yesterday, and it was actually very, very enlightening. I hate that more parents are not involved in that. I hate that this was the first time parents were actually invited. I do thank Miss Wise for kind of getting this on the ball, because I do think that she understands that we as the community are fighting, and we're fighting for the same thing. It's the best thing for our children, for the future of Garrett County. And right now, your future of Garrett County is not looking good. So I also, maybe not some of you here, but I think there's a couple that maybe has said this. We are gaslighting teachers. I am the problem parent. Let's just try to hold them off until their kids are graduated. So I have facts, and we'll see who's gaslighting who. I'm going to go ahead and start this over here. The way this is discipline. These are your test scores for your children on iReady. This is what they are testing, what levels they are testing at. This is a discipline chart. Now for this, they are only referring every fourth referral. Okay, so no matter what, it's every four. So whatever this number is, you times that by 4, and that's your actual discipline number. Okay, so I would go ahead and pass that along too. As you can see, unfortunately, 5th grade is still rough. We'll say that. I will say it is 100% not because of our children, or I'm sorry, not because of the teacher. If you look at some of these results, the teachers that have these troubled children, that are the repeat offenders, that are spoken to day in and day out, their classroom results are awful. And why do you think that, guys? Why do you think that is? All their time is going into these handful of children. Sorry, I took this with me. Handful of children that they're wasting all their time and energy on. I would like to collect those back. Again, this is not a teacher problem. This is not per se a Miss Wise problem, because this is years of problems that have been going on. And that unfortunately kind of gives you a little bit of, I hope it enlightens you a little bit. Again, I will be collecting those. I would like to say I'm sorry for any little chicken scratch that's going on there. But that's where we're at. And the community needs to know that we have no more room for this 6th grade academy.
Thank you, Ms. Lindley. Kaylee Davis, flag.
Hi, my name is Kaylee Davis. I'm a parent and educator in the county, and whenever I'm able to, I work with at-risk youth through the Garrett College Transition Age Youth Program that serves 8th grade through high school students in the county. In the evenings after each program, we take the kids home. At this point in time, my route included dropping off a student who lived near me. You can see my house as we drive by, and I keep a pride flag out on my porch to show my support. One evening, I dropped off a student who lived near me, and I was on my way to drop off the last student in the van before returning to the college. They asked me about my flag, and I told them that I was part of the community and liked to show my support. The student confided in me that they were also part of the community as a trans member, and started telling me how their family wasn't supportive and how they often got bullied by peers and even teachers in their school. They told me they felt comfortable telling me because they saw my flag, and it was nice to know that there were supportive, safe spaces in the county when they've never known otherwise. Since then, I've made sure to keep a pride flag out at my house year-round, because even if one person finds it comforting, then it's worth it. I just put up a new one today that says everyone is welcome here, because that's what the pride flag means. I know the outcome of this scenario will likely be getting rid of all flags that aren't related to education. My problem with this is that those who are in need of support and are already marginalized will be the ones who continue to suffer. I would like to see the pride flags in schools to continue to support this and provide a safe space for those who need it. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. And our final speaker this evening is Samantha Roller, flag. Oh. That's the best answer I've had this evening. Well, welcome to our meeting. Okay, thank you so much, each of you. We'll say this, at the end of our presentations this evening, there is a superintendent update, and the superintendent will be speaking to some of the issues that were brought up tonight. But that will be something that will be said at the end of the meeting. So for those of you who want to stay, if not, you'll be able to see the things the superintendent's saying later. All right, we are now at the seniors' last day of action. Come back up, Mr. Edwards. This is an action item to determine the last day for seniors for this year.
You all should have had a memo in your packets for this evening. Basically, the request this year is for the last school day for seniors to be Wednesday, May the 29th. That is the reciprocal date as the previous several years. Mr. Yoder and Mr. Wolf and myself all agree on this date, and our request is after all exams are completed, it gives us a couple of days to prepare for graduation. Should be the same as the past several years. That's the request.
Superintendent, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, my recommendation is to approve May 29th, 2024 as the last day of school for our senior students.
The superintendent made a recommendation that the 29th of May be the last day for seniors this year. Is there a motion as such?
Make a motion, we accept the superintendent's recommendation for May for the last day for the seniors.
Motion by Mr. Van Sickle,
Second.
second by Mr. Heimball. Can I have discussion? Any discussion concerning that date? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve. Already got the motion to approve, I'm sorry. I'm gonna wake up in a minute too. We have a motion on the floor. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And it is the 29th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Northern High School Gymnasium Bleacher Replacement Project is also an action item. Mr. Wazlowski.
Okay, good evening. I'm here tonight to request the approval of the Northern High Gymnasium bleachers as part of the capital grant program. I provided a scope of work to the board along with a memo to kind of give you a summary of everything we've done so far with the capital grant. So once again, to T-Day Distributors from Forest Hills, Maryland, in the amount of $159,400.
Superintendent, do you have a recommendation?
My recommendation is to approve TJ Distributors to complete the gymnasium bleacher replacement at Northern Garrett High School.
Okay, the superintendent is recommending that we replace the bleachers at Northern High School with the company provided. Is there a motion as such?
So moved.
So moved by
Second.
Mr. Heimball,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Gluckman. Discussion.
Yeah, would these new bleachers be ADA compliant
Yes.
compared to what we currently have is not compliant, correct?
Yes.
I did ask for clarification. I was here yesterday for a couple of things. Southern High School is also getting bleachers as well, but it's a part of the overall
Yeah, it's part of the renovation.
project.
Yes.
So both gymnasiums will have ADA compliant bleachers.
Correct.
Okay, great. Any other questions, concerns? Okay, all those in favor of the item as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And we are purchasing the bleachers.
Thank you.
The school year 24-25 calendar review.
Good evening. This evening, I'm proposing a recommendation for the 24-25 Garrett County Public School academic calendar based on a calendar committee. The calendar committee met on January 24th to discuss the scope of the proposed 24-25 academic calendar with a post-Labor Day start based on the board's feedback at the January 9th board meeting. This committee was comprised of 14 people who served in different roles in our school communities: parents, community members, GCPS staff, union representatives, and a board member. I would like to thank those individuals that served on this committee. Thank you very much. With all the proposed recommendations of this post-Labor Day calendar, the start date for the 2024-25 school year would be Tuesday, September the 3rd, 2024, and the last day, if the calendar is approved as written, would be June 5th, 2025. The committee recommends a total of 9 professional development days, 1 each month, September through May, for staff, as well as 1 parent conference, which was built in the middle of the year, and has the 10 makeup days as part of the calendar to comply with COMAR requirements. The following non-holidays listed below were discussed as to whether schools should be open for students or closed, with a rationale for our recommendations. The first, for a post-Labor Day start, as I shared, the board made the charge of this committee to start with the Tuesday, September the 3rd as the first day. Based on the start date, the committee felt it was very important to have students in school as often as possible when the weather is best. Therefore, the recommendation of Autumn Glory Friday be open to students. The calendar committee recommends that schools should be in session. The facilities are not utilized for Autumn Glory activities that would disrupt learning as has done in the past. An additional day before testing is reasonably repeated by teachers teaching the AP courses. Veterans Day, we believe, should be open to students. After speaking to administrators and other staff that have Veterans Day activities at their school, they feel it's imperative for students to be in school. On that day, we recommend a professional development 3-hour early dismissal for students. That would allow schools to hold programming in honor of Veterans Day while allowing students the opportunity to celebrate that day accordingly. By offering it as a 3-hour early out professional development day, this would cut down on the amount of disruptions for the regular program. In the fall of 2024, 265 high school students who are duly enrolled in the college courses at Garrett would be attending on Autumn Glory and Veterans Day. Mr. Green will share some highlights that have been done in our school districts to celebrate and showcase Veterans Day programs.
So this past year, went through and comprised a review of our Veterans Day activities that each school had. We saw that presentation during the December board meeting, but just wanted to reiterate that all 12 of our schools do participate in some form of activity. 7 of the schools offer some type of a meal or refreshments for their veterans or parents, etc. And then additionally, 7 of those schools, some of them overlap, have some form of a ceremony or program dedicated to veterans and their lives.
Thanksgiving Monday, the calendar committee recommended that the schools are closed to students. It was the committee's consensus to retain this day as a holiday. The closure of school on this day helps prevent absences due to hunting seasons and holiday travelers in Garrett County. Additionally, we know that attendance plays an integral part of our Maryland STAR ratings in our school district. December 23rd would be a day closed for students. The projected absences of students and staff was a significant factor in recommending this day as a closure. The cost associated with a half-day operation was also a factor in this recommendation. Family and employees' morale were also considered. Efficiencies would be gained when considering turning heat down and utilities for schools over the Christmas break, turning them down on Friday, December the 20th versus Monday, December the 23rd. The committee also discussed the 21st day of school to be in 3-hour early dismissal. Due to the impression received from MSTE at this time, we may not have the opportunity to have virtual days in the next school year. The committee recommended that this day be in 3-hour early dismissal for students as we've negotiated and have in the past. Easter, the spring break. The possible inability to utilize virtual days also led to the consideration that a spring break would likely be used as a makeup day in the calendar. Therefore, the committee recommends that the Thursday and Tuesday surrounding Easter weekend be in-school days and that Good Friday and Easter Monday be scheduled off, with the possibility of Easter Monday being a makeup day. We are required to have 10 within our calendar. Graduation in this calendar would be set for May 31st. This date would allow for all testing and sports to be completed. So if the calendar is recommended as written, the end of the school would be June 5th for our students. Now, there is a timeline. As you know, tonight we're making the proposed calendar to the board. Starting tomorrow, February 14th through March 4th, there will be a public viewing and comment available. Please make sure you make comments on this calendar. The board reads every single comment. Then the next action would be March the 12th at the board meeting. We would come back and ask the board to make action on the calendar.
Okay, questions, concerns about the calendar? I know we've all been given copies of it, so, yes, John.
I'd like to thank you for the consideration of Veterans Day off for the students. I still think it needs to be a full day off. Just my opinion.
Anything? Anyone else? Anything? Okay.
Thank
You, Dr. Wilson. We do have an action item to follow, and that is calendar proposal makeup days. This is to make up some of the days that we've been missing, and it is an action item. Dr. McCartney will make that presentation.
Excuse me. Yes, she will. As you can see on the slide, and many of us have been experiencing this year, we have missed 3 days of school at this point in time. We have been using wisely, I believe, our virtual learning days, but we do have 3 days that we need to make up. So the recommendation tonight to the board is to make up 3 days. On March 28th would be 1 day. That is the Thursday before Easter break. Then April the 2nd, which is the Tuesday after Easter Monday. And then add 1 day at this point to the end of the year, which would be June the 10th. In our calendar, when it was developed, these days were put in the calendar last year as potential makeup days. If we gain approval for March 28th and April the 2nd, it is helpful to us in terms of making up time with students before the testing window, and really helps us with the academic front. So my recommendation is to approve Thursday, March 28th, Tuesday, April the 2nd, and June the 10th of 2024 as makeup days for the current school year. I should add very quickly that it may be that we will have additional days later. Thank you.
Okay, you have heard the superintendent's recommendation that the 28th of March, the 2nd of April, and the 10th of June be used as makeup days. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Manson, seconded by Ms. Lillard. Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of using those 3 days as stated as makeup days, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And those are adopted. Okay, folks, we've got a rather large end of our meeting with the Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School presentation and some public comments. So we're going to take a 10-minute break. Those of us have been here since 3 o'clock. I'm old. I need a 10-minute break. So we will be back here at about 20 after. Thank you for coming back. We are now moving to the Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School application process. I know this is a very long endeavor, headed up by Dr. Miller, and she will bring the board up to speed as to where she and her committees are concerning the application process.
Thank you. And yes, I do believe it has been a long endeavor for all involved, both the charter group as well as Garrett County Public Schools employees. I will go ahead and start with some background. We're obviously going to be talking about the Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School application and the administrative review process that goes along with it. On September 21st is when we were formally notified that there was a group of individuals who wanted to express interest in converting the current Swan Meadow School to Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School. And we did receive that application then on November 15th of this school year. Just as a reminder, according to statute, we have 120 days to go through an administrative process and render a decision. When we do the calculations with our calendar, that does mean that we need to have a decision rendered by March 13th to comply with that statute. This is a multi-phase process, and you'll see the 2 phases that are highlighted in orange are the phases that we have completed. The individuals, we'll call them the charter group, they have went through the application development phase, and then as Garrett County Public Schools, we have gone through the application review phase. The next steps in the process will be that the superintendent will make a recommendation in March at the regularly scheduled board meeting, and the board will take action at that meeting to determine whether or not, to determine how we move forward. And after that, should the board approve that we move forward, we would go into a charter agreement phase and then ultimately implementation and monitoring phase. Tonight, we're really only going to talk about the application phase and the review process. So again, during the application phase, this is a time when individuals interested in putting a charter application together, they engage in research, information gathering, planning. It's also a time in which we, as Garrett County Public Schools, provide technical assistance to those individuals as they work on application development. We did provide some robust technical assistance, including meeting with the charter group 5 times throughout the process and exchanging many emails. Lots of communication back and forth, which was robust and rich in nature. We did formulate a running question and answer to keep ourselves organized, and the elected board has access to that in the board folder. All of that work culminated in a written application that you can find linked into the executive summary, but I think it's also linked into board docs as a separate document as well. So on November 15th, when we received the application, that immediately started the review phase of the application and the process that we have to take. So shortly after that, Dr. McCartney appointed the chairs for each of the committees. We did have 6 committees in accordance with our policy, including educational programming, student services, operations, which includes transportation and facilities, human resources, finance, and governance. So we did start with obviously the appointment of chairs and a kickoff meeting, because we needed to also establish the committee members for each of those committees, which Dr. McCartney also formally approved. Most of those members of committees were GCPS experts, but we did also expand beyond GCPS and work with 2 counties who have charter schools currently operationalized in their county. One was Frederick County and the other was Charles. After that, after the kickoff meeting, we did complete a technical compliance review, which was basically just a high-level review of the application to ensure that it complied with the policy and procedure for charter schools. And then, of course, each committee had a series of meetings that they worked with their committee members in the review process. Through that process, each committee developed clarifying questions and also comments for the charter group, and those were sent to the charter group on January 3rd, and responses due back January 12th. And that is how it actually happened. We were able to get all of that information back, and then the committee chairs were able to meet and reach final consensus to then therefore create their recommendations on behalf of their committee. This slide does show an overview, a very high-level overview of each of the committee's results. Each committee reviewed the application as a whole, the clarifying questions and answers, and all other documents that were provided. We did use the rubric that is articulated in the policy and procedure, and at the end of the day, each committee came to an overall consensus and an overall rating. Ratings ranged, could range from met expectations, partially met expectations, well, I should go in order. Met expectations, approaching expectations, partially meeting expectations, and not meeting expectations. And as you can see on the slide, the vast majority are rated as partially meeting the standard. However, there is one that does meet the standard and one that does not. And overall, the results and the consensus of the chairs and the committees was that the charter group needed additional time to work on development of their application in order to ensure the likelihood of successful implementation. I will add that on board docs, there's a comprehensive executive summary that is fairly lengthy that I will spare you going through, because I'm sure you all read it word for word, with many links embedded. And then, of course, the elected board does have access to the board folder as well, with additional documents that shows the process that we took.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Miller. Questions, comments, concerns?
Just a few questions. You said that we spoke to Frederick County and Talbot?
Charles.
Charles, thank you. Did we give that information to the folks from Swan Meadow as well, so they could reach out to folks that were trying to start a charter school?
So they did work with MSDE, and they did work with the Charter Alliance group. They were aware that we were working with Frederick, but we did not give the actual contact information.
And I did review your executive summary, but probably skipped over some of it. But how long have those schools been open?
Ooh, both of them were relatively new. I would say within the last few years. Frederick was a conversion school, and so it was very similar in a lot of ways, whereas Charles was not a conversion school. But I would say within the last 3 to 5 years for both of them.
Did they say whether it happened on the first attempt, or did it take multiple attempts? Did you ask that question, or did they happen to share that information?
They did not share that. I think it just varies across. My experience in talking with people across the state is that it varies. Sometimes people are able to get through in the first attempt. There are often times where they have to reapply as well. And I believe, now that I have some think time, that Charles has had at least one that they have denied. And I don't recall, though, if it was the same one that is actually approved now. Okay. So they've been through the process a couple of times.
Thank you.
Yes.
Other questions? It is a very lengthy summary, and I did read all of it. It was interesting. Do you feel is there, most are approaching? In summary, did the committees feel that there was one stumbling block greater than in the other, or was there things that could not be overcome in the amount of time given? What was the overarching feeling?
I don't know that there was necessarily one overarching stumbling block. Things do kind of, they can't be viewed in isolation. They tend to weave together to create the total program. So I don't necessarily think there was one stumbling block per se. When you look at the results, you can see that a number of the different committees were partial. I think overall, the general consensus that I gained from the committee leads is just that it wasn't, the application as a whole just wasn't there yet. And there needed to be more time and attention paid to some aspects in multiple areas for it to actually be an application that could be implemented successfully at the end of the day.
Sorry, Tom. I have a question. Sorry. So timeline, I know we're going to present this information tonight. Superintendent will make a recommendation at a later meeting. What are some other scenarios of timeline? So we would have to either approve or deny, right? And then they would have to do new application again, right? To start the clock over again based on MSDE.
You have to render a decision before March 13th as a elected board. That is the task at hand that by law we have to do that. Depending on that decision will depend on how we move forward. If it would be a decision where the board denied the application, then the applicants could reapply in the fall. They could work through some of the issues later in the spring, over the summer, and reapply before during the window. I think it's October 15th to November 15th is when they can apply based on our policy and procedure.
But we have to approve or deny. We can't extend, correct?
You have to approve or deny.
I asked that same question. It's approve or deny.
Anything else for tonight? Again, this will be certainly a topic in our next board meeting. Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you very much. Now the Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School Group will make a presentation in the way that we try to do this so fair to everyone is a spokesperson for the group will be allowed 10 minutes. We will not answer any questions tonight from comments. That's for another night. We will certainly allow everyone who wants to speak, and it looks like we've got about 14, to have your 3 minutes as well. And we'll take all of that into consideration as we consider whether or not the application will be forwarded or not based on the superintendent's recommendation. So I assume, Ms. Lance, are you the spokesperson? Not that you know of, okay? I assumed wrong then. Who is the spokesperson? Is there a person who wants to be the spokesperson and take the 10 minutes? You're ready to go? Okay, all right, that sounds good to me. Robert Beveridge is the first person. Not here anymore? Okay, that's fine. Andy Adams. It's going great. How you doing?
My name's Andy Adams. I'm a parent and small business owner in the community. Last time I was in front of this board, I actually told you my kids would never be seen in a Garrett County public school. I pulled all 6 of my kids September of 2019. Okay, I've sent 3 of them out of state to private schools. One of those children that was going to a private school out of state was pulled and enrolled into Swan Meadows with 2 of our other children. Okay, and what prompted that was Swan Meadows had an open house, and my wife and I attended with the children, and we were absolutely blown away with the facility, the staff, just everything in general. Okay, the smaller classrooms, the more attention my children receive from the teachers there. Not only are they pumping curriculum, but they're also assessing my children. Now, I've heard tonight of other schools being overcrowded, so my kids would not be getting assessed at those other Garrett County public schools, okay? So regardless of testing and curriculum, everything else, Swan Meadows has done a fantabulous job of assessing my kids' strengths, recognizing those weaknesses, and helping them build on those weaknesses to become strengths. I know that if Swan Meadows did have the opportunity to become a charter school, they could do even more to assess those needs that my children need and could use to be successful and thrive in this community. That's all I have to say on the behalf. Thank you.
Thank you for re-enrolling your children. Dallas Reiser.
I am Dallas Risser and a proud parent of 3 children at Swan Meadow, and we've been there for 9 years now. And I'd just like to share, I think before I get started, I think it's just a fact we're new at this, you guys are new at this, and we're all just trying to feel our way through it. So there's probably some missing links on both sides of it, just to be fair. But anyway, I just want to share some facts about charter schools that we found. So Maryland's got around 49 charter schools. They're all public schools and they're part of the local districts. The folks working there are district employees just like any other school. These schools have enrolled in approximately 24,000 students. Charter schools get checked out regularly to make sure they're doing a great job academically and handling their budgets wisely. It's been 20 years since Maryland said yes to charter schools. Now, charter schools are kind of special. They've got this freedom to try out new ways of teaching while making sure students are learning more and more. It's all about teamwork, families, teachers, and students working together to make school an awesome place where everyone wants to be. Swan Meadow is already doing a lot of what charter schools already do, especially when it comes to working closely with the Pleasant Valley community. This place has seen parents, grandparents, and even friends from far away come together to support our little school, helping to fund field trips, etc. This year, Swan Meadow, with just a couple full-time teachers, is handling 9 grade levels, and that's a lot of different lesson plans to come up with. But with the amazing support of our parent volunteers who are there every day, our teachers are doing a fabulous job. Our school's test scores are showing that this way of teaching with smaller classes and lots of individual attention really works. Plus, our PTO has been fantastic, raising funds through our annual harvest sale fundraiser to help fund the school. We're all in support of Swan Meadow even more, especially if it means keeping our community school going strong. All we're asking for is a chance to show what we can do as a charter school and keep providing amazing education for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Risser. Michael Yoder.
Hi, my name is Michael. I am a former member of Swan Meadow, student, and a hopeful future parent. We have 2 children that we're hoping to send there. So this is just a brief, I guess, a vision of what we're shooting for. Our charter school stands as a dedicated partner to the Garrett County Public Schools, GCPS, embodying a shared vision of education as the key to community, vitality, and sustainability. In aligning with GCPS's mission, we commit to fostering an environment where every student's growth is nurtured through rigorous instruction, celebrating diversity, and sustaining culture, a culture of excellence. We eagerly anticipate collaborating closely with the Board of Education, embracing the opportunity to work together towards a future where our educational endeavors enrich the lives of all students. Together, we will challenge students with personalized learning experiences, forge strong community partnerships, and uphold the values of equity, inclusivity, and innovation. As we look ahead, we are inspired by the potential of our combined efforts to create a legacy of educational excellence and community engagement. In this spirit of collaboration and optimism, we see a bright future where our charter school and GCPS collectively uplift and transform our community, ensuring every child has the support and opportunities to achieve their fullest potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yoder. Arlene Lance?
Sorry, I wasn't prepared there, but we got a team effort is what we worked on here tonight. Team approach. So, good evening, respected members of the board and central office. My name is Arlene Lance, and I come before you today with a perspective shaped by 34 years of dedicated teaching and blessed at the past 24 years that were spent nurturing young minds at Swan Meadow School. I wish to extend a heartfelt thank you to Dr. Nicole Miller, our Garrett County Charter School liaison. Her leadership, along with the diligent efforts of her committee members and staff, have been instrumental in navigating this charter school within Garrett County Public Schools. Their commitment and expertise have not gone unnoticed, and we deeply appreciate their contributions and time. Equally, here as a proud member of the Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School Committee, embarking on what is undoubtedly a pioneering journey for all of us. This initiative represents a new chapter, not just for the committee and myself, but for the entire community as we aim to serve to keep Swan Meadow alive. GCPS and our charter visions, missions, and goals closely align. To quote from GCPS, education is the key to the vitality and sustainability of our community. Swan Meadow has been the hub of the Pleasant Valley community since 1892. GCPS notes, while celebrating the cultural and traditions of Garrett County, the schools create an environment where students are nurtured to become productive, enthusiastic, and successful members of society. Swan Meadow School has produced numerous productive citizens that have remained in the local community and are successfully working and running various businesses. GCPS states community contributions are encouraged and valued. The Swan Meadow community has a long history since 1892 of supporting the staff, students, and building projects at the school, donating the property for the school. The middle school students are currently working with a local contractor to build a beautiful pavilion on the school property. GCPS states parents and families are critical to the success of students. Swan Meadow has been blessed with community volunteers that support the students, staff. GCPS also states that you value our local community schools, you value transparency and decision-making to maintain the trust of our communities, parents, students, faculty, and staff, and value co-curricular opportunities. These values all align directly with the focus of the proposed Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Arlene. Next is Jonathan Yoder.
Good evening. I'm Jonathan Yoder. I'm the PTO president at the moment. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to address the Board of Education today. I'd like to discuss a critical aspect of our proposed charter school's journey, the budget and financial planning. We fully acknowledge the challenges of balancing a budget, particularly in the educational sector where resources are so closely tied to student numbers. In our diligent efforts to craft a realistic and responsible budget for our charter school, we have encountered a significant hurdle related to the projected revenue based on student enrollment. As we understand it, the revenue allocation for our school would be determined by a 3-year average of enrollment figures. Should we be fortunate enough to open our doors to 60 students, which is what we're hoping, our operational infrastructure would be designed to support this number. However, under the current formula, our funding would reflect the equivalent of approximately 43 students based on the 3-year average. This discrepancy represents a shortfall of about $187,000 in our budget, given our per pupil allotment of roughly $11,000 per student. It's important to note that under this model, the Garrett County Public Schools would receive funding for all 60 students, unless there was an increase in enrollment within the county. This places a considerable financial strain on our charter school ability to provide the quality education we envision for our students. We understand the constraints and responsibility the board faces in allocating resources across the county's educational needs. However, we believe that for our charter school to thrive and serve our community effectively, a measure of flexibility and support in the initial budgeting process is essential. We kindly request the board consider a more accommodating approach to our budget in these early stages. This would not only reflect a commitment to educational innovation and diversity within our county, but also provide a solid foundation for our charter school to succeed and grow. We appreciate the board's time and consideration of this matter and are open to further discussions on how we can work together to address this challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yoder. Michael Henderson?
Good evening, Superintendent, esteemed members of the board. And everyone involved in all the committees. My name is Mike Henderson. Some of the members are familiar with me, others, you and I are new. I'm here to express my deep appreciation for the opportunity to share our perspective. I extend my gratitude for the dedication and hard work everyone has involved in the process. With the Board of Education hinted in March of 2023 at the potential for Swan Meadow to transition to a charter school, our community mobilized with enthusiasm and dedication. Although we lack official records of the time involved, it's clear that the commitment involved thousands of hours of comprehensive research and consultation. The effort encompassed dialogue with state agencies, experts in various fields, nonprofit organizations, rigorous examination of extensive documentation, including MSDE rulings, webinars, and legal frameworks, all aimed at custom designing Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School to truly reflect our community's desires and educational philosophy. At the heart of our school proposal is a simple yet profound principle: self-determination and a collective commitment to our children's education. This initiative is driven by unanimous desire from students, staff, and families to be part of something uniquely tailored to our community's needs. Addressing the practical aspects, particularly concerning funding and human resources, it appears there may be some misunderstandings. In particular, with the blueprint for Maryland, funding has become an issue. That is defined according to the MSD ruling of June 27th, 2023, opinion number 2317. And further resources available on the MSD website are budget protections and staffing arrangements that adhere closely to the prescribed guidelines. All staff, as members of the GCPS system and in alignment with union agreements, are to be managed under the supervision of the GCPS Human Resources Department with financial allocations, including the 25% allowance for blueprint funds. Concerns raised about academic accountability overlook the rigorous standards to which Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School will adhere. Our school is committed to meeting or surpassing state educational requirements, ensuring our students undergo the same assessments as their peers across Garrett County, fully embracing the mission of GCPS to inspire and foster student growth. In closing, I would like to underscore that our collective presence here, students, homeschoolers, teachers, staff, is a choice We choose Swan Meadows because we believe in the value it brings to our children's education and our community. We are not just asking for the chance to open a charter school. We are inviting you to join us in pioneering an educational model that upholds the very essence of the GCPS mission, fostering growth, opportunity, and for every student in our care. Thank you for your proposal. Thank you for considering our proposal with open hearts and minds.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Katie Friend.
Good evening. I'm a mom of Swan Meadows, of a Swan Meadow student. I volunteer my time at the school, and I see firsthand how community comes together. I see the respect of peers and authority in the classroom. As a charter, the educational approach will help keep the learning environment the same, where families can choose, ensuring that each child can find a place where they can thrive, where learning abilities and interests can be met on smaller scales.
Thank you, Ms. Friend. Lisa Schwartz-Trooper.
Hello, I'm Lisa. I have been a patron at Swan Meadow for the last 8 years, and my oldest is set to graduate this year. Over the last 8 years of engagement with the public education, my family has witnessed many changes, yet the constant has always been the pursuit of a quality education and enriching learning experience. Working on the charter application has been an enlightening journey, revealing the vast landscape of educational models and curricula. Our exploration led us to embrace a classical education approach for the charter school, a time-honored method with roots stretching back over 2,000 years, esteemed by some of our nation's founding fathers. Classical education is fundamentally language-based, aiming to mold students into active learners who can visualize words as images, encouraging excellence not only academically, but in personal virtues like self-discipline and accountability. This pursuit of an alternative educational path reflects a broader desire within our community for diverse public schooling options. At a recent open house, the interest from families, especially those transitioning from homeschooling, underscored a collective yearning for a distinctive educational experience, a yearning that Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School is poised to fulfill. The addition of approximately 17 students, with 11 formerly homeschooled or attending a private school, signals a clear demand for what our charter school offers. It's evident that families are seeking variety in public education, a need that our charter school is ready to meet. Our vision is to offer a choice, a classical pathway that might just be the answer many are looking for. If granted the opportunity to become Garrett County's first public charter school, joining the ranks of 49 others across America, serving nearly 24,000 students, we would do so with a sense of honor and responsibility. We believe Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School represents not just an alternative, but a beacon for those searching for a more traditional education in the public domain. And then I also have a letter from a family that was not able to attend this evening. As a homeschooling family, Swan Meadow is the only school that could bring our family into the public school system. We came for the small class size and a student experience that we believe can only be provided at this school. We also came for the potential of Swan Meadow being a charter school. In just this school year, our children have experienced learning and growth in more areas that can be reflected on standardized tests. In growth in more areas than can be reflected on standardized tests. The Pleasant Valley community and their families genuinely have something special that a lot of people do not understand. We have never seen such a dedication to the success of a school. Whether it is current parents and grandparents, past or even future parents, people that live in the area, or friends and family from out of the area, they volunteer and support the success of about 50 kids that are blessed to come to Swan Meadow daily. Nothing can compare to it. The staff is also a part of that success. The charter is the only thing that will keep our family at Swan Meadow. We will go back to homeschool or explore private school options if it is denied. Brian and Melody Friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Crystal, is that correct? No. Well, I did well. I don't say that. Okay.
No.
All right.
This is
So
the
it's
late night
pronounced
for-
what?
I'm sorry, what?
It's pronounced
It's sweat, yeah.
sweat.
Sweet is better,
Well,
though. That's
well,
fine.
I was afraid of sweat. That's why I went with sweet.
Yeah, that was the safer move. Yeah, that was a political move.
I
Good
will
job.
remember next month.
Yeah.
I promise.
Oh, it's fine. I don't take any offense. Yeah, this is a late night for everyone, so thank you very much. It's going to probably be a struggle for me to stay awake while I give the speech, so good luck to you guys. No, I'm just kidding, hopefully. So thank you for this opportunity to discuss our charter school proposal and to recognize the exceptional teachers and staff at Swan Meadow School. Their unwavering commitment, especially amidst an enrollment surge and the challenge of managing multiple grades in each classroom, has been nothing short of remarkable. As a parent, I've witnessed my children flourish academically and personally, benefiting from the dedicated partnership between our teachers and families. Tonight, I aim to illuminate the distinct vision behind proposing a classical charter school for our community. In our quest for conversion, we engaged with established charter schools to grasp the essence of classical education. Two models, Frederick Classical Charter School and Sibyllesville Environmental School, which I think, yeah, that's the one that you were talking about, offered valuable insights. Frederick Classical, a beacon of academic excellence since its inception in 2013, stands as a testament to the success of classical pedagogy. Similarly, Sibyllesville's transition into a charter school, adapting Frederick Classical's application to their environmental focus, mirrored our journey and aspirations. Our proposals draw from these successful precedents, tailoring their experiences to the unique fabric of Swan Meadow and our community's heritage. Both schools' achievements, including Frederick Classical's impressive waiting list. In 2022, they had 800 students on their waiting list, and Sibyllesville's remarkable academic growth. They saw the highest growth in reading in the county, the first year of its conversion to classical curriculum. Yes, they reinforce our belief in the classical approach, potential to elevate our educational offerings. By integrating a classical curriculum and pedagogy, we envision Swan Meadow not just continuing its legacy, but thriving as a center of academic excellence and community involvement. Our application, inspired and supported by the experiences of Frederick Classical and Sibyllesville, is a testament to our commitment to providing an enriching classical education that resonates with our community values and aspirations. In closing, I hope that you join us in embracing this transformative journey towards establishing Swan Meadow as Garrett County's first classical charter school, where tradition meets innovation to foster a bright future for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sweat. Ron Schwartzentruber.
Good evening, folks. Just in closing, I am Ron Schwartzentruber. I am a former student of Swan Meadow, and we came up with a fictional story that might put everything into a little bit of perspective. So, once upon a time, in a vast forest of towering trees, there lived two birds named Charlie and Olive. Charlie lived in a vast, bustling tree with many branches, while Olive made her home in a small, cozy tree with just a few branches. Charlie in the big tree found it hard to be heard above the chatter of the other birds. When he had questions or needed help finding food, it was difficult to catch the attention of the other birds, who were busy tending to many others. Charlie often felt lost among the leaves, dreaming of a place where he chirps and sings would be heard and his wings could soar. Olive, on the other hand, lived in a place where every tweet flutter was noticed. The older birds in her tree had time to listen to her questions and guide her in her flights. In her small tree, Olive felt cherished, confident, knowing she was an important part of her little community. One day, a wise old owl, watching over the forest,
Notice the struggles and joys of the two little birds. The owl saw how vast the tree's size made it hard for individual birds like Charlie to feel seen and heard. Meanwhile, the small tree nurtured Olive's spirit, allowing her to thrive. The wise owl gathered all the trees of the forest and shared the tales of Charlie and Olive. In our forest, the owl began, every tree and every bird plays an important role. But just as Charlie feels lost in the vastness of his tree, so too can a child feel overlooked in a large school. And just as Olive thrives with the care and attention she receives in her small tree, so can a child flourish in a school where they are known and nurtured. The owl continued, our forest is like the school system, vast and diverse, but we must remember whether a tree is large or small, each bird within seeks to be heard and understood. Our new charter school, like Olive's small tree, wishes to offer a nurturing branch to those who seek it. The trees of the forest listened intently, and a gentle breeze carried the owl's wise words throughout the land. From that day forward, the trees worked together to ensure that every bird, whether from a vast tree or a small tree, felt heard, seen, and understood. And so the forest became a place of harmony where every bird could find their place, sing their song, and spread their wings, just like Charlie and Olive. Thank you.
Thank you. Philip Kinsinger. Got opinions about everything, huh, Philip?
Well, I'm back again. So, I guess I was a former student of Swan Meadow too, and I have 2 children enrolled right now, and there's a third one that's making his way there. He's a couple years yet. But my wife has expressed already, if it doesn't continue as a charter school, I'm not sure we can put our children in a public setting. And I forgot to mention earlier, that little 6-year-old child, if that happened to me, I don't know what I would do, but there would be some significant consequences to whoever was involved. Because if I ask all of you, stand up, drop your pants, we want to check you, what would you do? Or the same question, if they did that to your children, what would they do? And I know we've heard a lot of flack about flags and stuff, but this is jokes aside. This is reality. I think we need a charter school to support our desires and our needs, and I think we can do that if we work together. But if the board is on, or the Board of Education is on one side, and the parents are on the other side, we go opposite directions, we fall apart. But that's just what I had, and I wanted to add that if that would ever happen in Swan Meadow, I don't think there would be a lot of parents that would not be there, and it would be a sad day. But that's basically all I had. I mean, I'm glad you're still here listening, and I know it's late.
We've been here a lot later than this listening, trust me.
I'm sure.
This is early.
But yeah, I just want to thank you all for doing what you do, and just please consider it on our behalf.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank each of you for coming out this evening and speaking. And certainly, as you well know, many of these decisions are steeped in statute. There are rules, laws that we have to abide by as well, expectations that we have to fulfill as a system. And certainly, I do commend Dr. Miller, all of you who served on the committees. I know it's been a lot of work. It has to be. I read all those pages, and just in reading the pages was a lot of work. So I commend you for doing that. It's I wish every parent in Garrett County believed that much in their school and their children, as each of you do. We'd be, all of us would be much better off. So thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to a student member report.
All right. So GCASC, we hosted our third General Assembly for the year last week. We had a workshop on legislative bills that are currently in the state legislature that are student related. And then we had a service project making dog toys for Heart for Animals, as well as a team building activity. And we also heard from Ms. Moss on the superintendent's vaping grant program and the application with that. So we're starting to work on that. Then, in conjunction with Allegheny County and Washington County, we are going to be hosting a Division I leadership conference on March 8th at Hickory. Each county is going to present their own workshop, and we're going to do a service project involving recycling. Our executive board is meeting next week to continue planning this conference and also begin discussing our final General Assembly and what we want to do with that. As for general student updates, Southern High hosted their Winter Homecoming and Spirit Week this past week. Northern and Southern High hosted their college career nights, which I had the privilege of attending Northern's, and I think that's a really good event. The Northern Lady Huskies basketball team hosted a blackout night in support of Team Wyatt, which is a local kid with cancer. So I thought that was a really good initiative. Southern Middle ran a donation drive for the Dove Center. Northern High Student Council ran a kindness initiative, passing out cookies and kind messages to their students. And Northern Middle also held a PBIS incentive day at the WISP snow tubing. Student member business outside of that, last week I had the privilege, along with some other student members from other counties, to testify before the state legislature on Bill 386. This bill would give every student member across the state voting rights and the right to attend executive session except on personnel. I do think that is a very complicated implementation process if that were to get passed, but I do think it's something that's really important because I do support the student voice. So that's all I have.
What did you think about testifying? What was that? What was your thoughts?
I had submitted testimony last year on a separate bill for something else, but I had never actually spoken in front of them. It is a little intimidating, but it was a good experience. And like I said, there was a bunch of us that kind of went in a group, so it was a good supportive environment, and I think they really listened. So,
Well, it's great that you did that. It's a great learning experience. Anything else? Okay, board member updates. Are there any updates?
I'll be brief. I've been very busy the last month, going down to Annapolis, meeting with the chairman of the budget committee in the House, basically promoting the MABES blueprint fix bill, which would have helped Garrett County in significant ways. It would have, and I've mentioned those, how it would help us. Unfortunately, we were unable to get a sponsor for that bill. There's just not a lot of there's not a lot of people aren't willing to open up the can of worms of opening up the blueprint again. They're just afraid there'd be a lot of there would be a lot of some people would put things into the bill that would damage the blueprint. So we were unable to get a sponsor, but we're trying to do piecemeal right now, trying to put the things that we wanted into additional pieces of legislation. So hopefully we'll be successful with that. But I want to say appreciate Senator McKay and Representative Heimball for actually submitting some legislation that'll help us as far as giving some flexibility on the funding for our schools that are under 300 students. And so we did get MABE support on that the other day. So that'll be helpful. So been a busy month for me. I did attend the legislative reception that MABE put on down there. The speaker, Adrian Jones, was a speaker at that. The Speaker of the House talked, governor's representative talked, and all of them were supportive of education. So been a busy month for me.
My wife and I, along with Dr. McCartney, last night attended Mr. Troutwine's kickoff for this year's 1629 team, his GEICO team. We had a great evening, introduced the mentors that work with the kids and introduced the kids that are on the team this year. And they showed us their robot and what that robot will do. It is absolutely amazing to me that they can do that. It's just amazing. And this is the 20th year that we've had that program in Garrett County. And that program has gone from its infancy of just an idea to known throughout the world as one of the top programs in the world. So we were very privileged to be there last night. They put on a nice pizza dinner for us and showed us all of their dreams and hopes for this year.
I was able to go to Northern Middle School and work with the 8th grade students on financial literacy. Great to get to work with them and teach them how to write a check, which they may never do, but it's probably important they learn. So I had a good time working with them. Also got to attend Axton Elementary School's character award assembly, so that was great to attend that. And also got to join Dr. McCartney on a Saturday at Northern High School for the robotics competition to see who qualified for state. So really enjoyed that.
Anything else? Anyone? Okay. Superintendent updates.
Been a long evening. Superintendent update. This isn't on my list, but I'm sitting here looking at my Swan Meadow friends and looking at the Garrett County Public School staff and knowing how much work both groups have put into developing and reviewing the charter school application. And I know I need to make a recommendation next month, and I will. But I want to say tonight how proud I am of our staff from the Board of Education and how appreciative I am of the community members in being able to work together and work with each other through this process. So thank you for, just thank you for that. Greatly appreciate it. The other thing I need to address, we've heard from several constituents tonight regarding issues of educational equity for each and every one of our students. In reviewing our established policies and procedures, I found that in one of our policies and procedures, it's called JB, that the superintendent is supposed to have an equity advisory board. The procedure states in section 2B that the equity advisory board is an advisory committee of this school board and shall include the superintendent as well as members from the following stakeholder groups: the faith community, nonprofit agencies, public education, business leaders, elected officials, and individuals from the Garrett County community. And while to my knowledge, this committee has never been established, I think it's time that we do that. So that's what we'll be doing. We will be establishing an equity advisory board. We will move towards doing that tomorrow. We are ready to post, I'm sure, Mark, invitations to community members who might want to apply to that board and work towards looking at the equity issues that have become apparent to me within the last couple of weeks that we need to address to be sure that all of our students feel safe at school. So that will be our next step in that regard. I do want to thank everyone who spoke tonight, everyone who is interested, as I am, in recognizing that our schools need to provide a safe and welcoming environment for all of our students. That's something that your school board and I and our employees are committed to keep working towards. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent McCartney. That ends this evening's board meeting. I appreciate all of you coming and staying to the end. Yes.
Sorry, one question for the
Sure.
board, Tom.
I'm sorry.
Several of our schools are participating in the Cool School Dunk coming up at the end of this month. So I was just wondering if any of the board members will be joining them.
I nominate Dr. McCartney.
Dr. McCartney.
I'll even sponsor you.
Dr. McCartney will be attending high heels and a dress and not anything that would go in the water.
Josh said he'd happy to assist you get to the water.
Thank
How about
very
you,
much.
Jason? You going to go?
I'll tell you what, if all of our schools meet their goal, I will go into the dunk.
There you go. Issues a challenge.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
If all of the schools meet the goal that they've set, I will go into the water.
Okay. Chelsea?
There you go.
I'll be giving you a check tomorrow.
For the full amount, she said.
In the water. Or over the top.
We will have another meeting on the 20th. It is a virtual meeting, so it will not be a live meeting. We will have a short public agenda, and it's a work session for the Board of Education considering superintendent's evaluation. We have to do an evaluation, a mid-year evaluation. We'll be doing that. And we will have another meeting on the 28th of this month, which is a budget work session. Probably it will be at Northern Middle, since we were here this meeting. And that will be a public session as well, and also have an executive session. But it's geared mostly towards setting up next year's budget. So those are two more. Yeah. Clarification on, just so that you know, the public portion of that meeting on the 20th will last about 10 seconds because all we're going to do is go into executive session because it is a personnel matter. So in case you were tuning in, you're not going to be there long. So I forewarn you that. But again, thank you for coming. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Seconded by Josh. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.